You talk too much. And because you talk too much, people walk all over you. Right now, you're filling every silence with words, with explanations, with justifications, and every time you do, you're giving away your power. You're telling the other person, I need your approval, I need you to understand, I need you to like me. But here's what they don't tell you. The most powerful people in every room are the ones who've mastered something you're terrified of. 4 seconds of pure silence. That's it. 4 seconds that separate the people who command respect from the people who beg for it. And if you can't sit in 4 seconds of silence without your anxiety forcing words out of your mouth, you're not ready for power. You're still a slave to other people's comfort. I'm going to show you exactly how Machiavelli weaponized silence to control princes and popes. And by the end of this video, you'll know the exact psychological mechanism that makes people obey when you simply stop talking. Let me tell you the lie you've been sold since childhood. You were taught that communication is about talking, about expressing yourself, about making sure everyone understands your perspective. Your teachers rewarded you for participation. Your parents praised you for being articulate. Your friends liked you for filling awkward pauses. You've been programmed to fear silence. And that programming didn't happen by accident. Because here's what the system doesn't want you to know. Silence is power, and they need you powerless. Think about every interaction you had this week. When someone challenged you, what did you do? You explained yourself. When someone questioned you, you justified. When someone disagreed, you argued. Words, words, words. An endless stream of verbal diarrhea trying to convince them you're right. And what happened? They still didn't respect you. They still didn't obey. Because you were operating from a position of weakness the entire time. Every word you speak seeking approval is a confession of your inferiority. Machiavelli understood something in 15th century Florence that you're just now discovering. The person who needs to speak is the person who lacks power. The person who can endure silence is the person who controls the interaction. You've always known something was off. You've watched people with less intelligence, less talent, less expertise command rooms while you sat there with all the answers but none of the influence. Now you know why. They mastered the weapon you were never taught existed. This isn't about communication skills. This is about psychological warfare. And you've been showing up to battle completely unarmed. Point 1. The power vacuum. Here's the dark truth about human psychology. Humans are terrified of vacuums. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human nervous system. When you create silence, real silence, not a pause but a void, the other person's brain goes into panic mode. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. But here's what he practiced, not just preached. He would sit in silence during negotiations, watching weaker men destroy themselves trying to fill the void he created. The psychological mechanism. When you stop talking, the other person's amygdala, their fear center, activates. Silence reads as disapproval, as judgment, as threat. Their nervous system starts screaming, fix this, make them respond, you're losing status. And what do? They start talking, they start explaining, they start revealing information they never intended to share. They start making concessions you never asked for. You didn't demand anything, you just stopped talking. Here's how you use this. Tomorrow, when someone makes a request of you, don't respond immediately. When your boss asks you to take on extra work, when a client pushes back on your price, when someone challenges your position, count to 4. Slowly. Say nothing. Just look at them. Watch what happens. They'll start backpedaling. I mean, if you're too busy, maybe we could work something out. Unless you think differently. The silence forced them to fill the vacuum. And in filling it, they gave you control. But here's the price. You'll feel uncomfortable. Your own nervous system will scream at you to speak. Your brain will manufacture reasons why you need to respond right now. You'll feel rude, feel aggressive, feel like you're violating social norms. Good. That discomfort is your slave conditioning trying to keep you powerless. Contrast example. Weak person. Gets challenged, immediately launches into explanation, justifies their position, seeks understanding, walks away having convinced no one. Powerful person gets challenged, maintains eye contact, says nothing for 4 seconds, watches the challenger's confidence crumble, then speaks with half the words and twice the impact. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control the conversation through silence. Point 2. The compliance mechanism. But here's where it gets dark. The 4-second silence doesn't just make people uncomfortable. It triggers a specific psychological response called impression management panic. When you stop talking, the other person doesn't know what you're thinking. And humans are wired to assume the worst. They assume you're judging them. They assume you're displeased. They assume they're losing status in your eyes. Machiavelli understood this. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel. Translation: perception matters more than reality, and silence controls perception absolutely. The psychological explanation: your silence creates an information vacuum. The other person's brain desperately tries to fill it, but with what? They project their own insecurities onto your silence. If they feel inadequate, they assume you see their inadequacy. If they feel guilty, they assume you're judging them. Your silence becomes a mirror for their weakest self-image. And what do people do when they see their weakness reflected back? They try to prove it wrong. They comply, they please, they obey. Here's how you use this. When you want someone to do something, don't end with a question. End with a statement and silence. Not, can you have this done by Friday? Instead, I need this Friday. Then stop. 4 seconds. Let them sit with it. Their brain will do your negotiating for you. Friday's tight, but I could probably. You didn't ask, you stated. The silence made it non-negotiable. Warning: this works so well that you'll be tempted to abuse it. You'll see people scrambling to please you, and you'll start using silence to manipulate minor compliance. Don't. Use this for important boundaries and real needs. Overuse it and people will recognize the pattern and resent you. Contrast example: weak person. Hey, I was wondering if maybe you could possibly get this to me by Friday? If you're not too busy. I mean, Monday works too. Powerful person, I need this Friday. Let me know if there's a problem. The weak person gave them an out. The powerful person created a container they had to actively resist, and resistance requires more energy than compliance. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence shapes their reality. Point 3. The status hierarchy. What I'm about to tell you next changes everything you think you know about social dynamics. Status isn't about what you say. It's about how long you can remain unaffected by social discomfort. Animals establish dominance through stillness. The lion doesn't chase, it waits. The pack leader doesn't explain, it simply moves and others follow. You know this instinctively. You've seen it in nature documentaries, but you forgot it applies to human hierarchies too. Sun Tzu wrote, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." But Machiavelli refined it. In the midst of silence, there is absolute power. Chaos is noise. Silence is the void where power crystallizes. The psychological mechanism. Every social interaction has an unconscious negotiation happening. Who's higher status? The lower status person works to maintain the higher status person's comfort. They laugh at jokes faster. They fill awkward pauses. They mirror body language. When you introduce silence, you create discomfort. Whoever breaks first to relieve that discomfort just revealed themselves as lower status. You're not being mean. You're simply allowing the natural hierarchy to reveal itself. Real-world application. In your next important meeting, practice this. When someone finishes speaking, wait 4 seconds before you respond, not 3, 4. Count it silently. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. Watch the room. Someone will always jump in to fill the silence. That person just told you they're lower status than you, even if they're your boss. They couldn't tolerate the discomfort you could tolerate. Now you know who actually has power in the room. Here's the cost. People will think you're intense. They'll describe you as intimidating. Some will avoid you. You'll lose relationships based on constant validation and pleasantness. You're trading likability for respect. Most people aren't willing to make that trade. That's why most people have neither. Contrast example. Weak person. Finishes their point. Immediately asks, "Does that make sense?" Or "What do you think?" Or fills their own silence with, "So yeah." Needs confirmation they were heard and understood. Powerful person. States their position. Stops talking. Maintains neutral expression. Lets the silence force others to process and respond on their own timeline. Doesn't need confirmation because they don't need approval. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am comfortable where others panic. Point 4. The listening illusion. This is the part they don't want you to know. When you master silence, people think you're the best listener they've ever met. But you're not listening more, you're talking less. There's a difference, and that difference is power. Machiavelli observed, everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. Your silence creates an appearance of depth, wisdom, and consideration. Meanwhile, you're simply not talking, and people project onto your silence whatever they need to project. They think you're wise. They think you understand them deeply. They think you're carefully considering their words. You're just counting to 4. The psychological explanation. Humans are narcissistic by default. We want to be heard, understood, validated. When someone actually stops talking and appears to listen, we feel seen. We think, finally, someone who gets it. But here's the trick. You're not doing anything. You're specifically doing nothing. Their brain is doing all the work. They're interpreting your silence as active listening because the alternative, that you simply don't feel the need to respond, is too threatening to their ego. Here's how you use this. In personal relationships, when someone's venting or sharing, resist the urge to relate, to share your own story, to give advice. Just sit in silence for 4 seconds after they finish. They'll interpret it as profound empathy. They'll feel heard. You didn't do anything except control your impulse to make it about you. In professional settings, after someone pitches you, proposes something, or makes a request, 4 seconds of silence. They'll start selling harder. They'll sweeten the deal. They'll reveal their bottom line. You didn't negotiate, you just didn't talk. The warning, this will make people trust you with information you don't want. They'll confess things. They'll share secrets. Your silence makes them feel safe, so they fill it with vulnerability. You become a repository for other people's darkness. Handle it responsibly or it will corrupt you. Contrast example, weak person. Friend shares problem, immediately responds with, oh my God, same thing happened to me, or here's what you should do. Makes it about them, or tries to fix it. Friend feels unheard. Powerful person, friend shares problem, 4 seconds of silence. Then, tell me more about that. Friend feels completely seen, continues sharing, bonds deeper. Powerful person gathered information and loyalty simultaneously. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence earns trust that words never could. Point 5. The frame control. Notice how everything changes when you stop seeking permission through words. Frame control is about who defines reality in an interaction. And the person talking is almost always the person trying to convince the other person of their reality. The person silent is the person whose reality is already established. Machiavelli's most brutal insight: never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. But silence isn't deception, it's the absence of appeal. You're not trying to win them over. Your silence communicates, this is reality. Adjust to it or don't. The psychological mechanism. Every question you ask is a micro-submission. What do you think equals I need your approval. Does this make sense? Equals I'm uncertain of my own clarity. Are you okay with this? I'm giving you authority to judge me. Statements followed by silence are frame dominance. This is what's happening. This is reality. Your acceptance isn't required for it to be true. The silence after a statement forces the other person to either accept your frame or do the work of breaking it. And breaking frames requires energy. Accepting them is easier. Most people choose easier. Real-world application. Stop asking permission for things that don't require permission. Not, can I share an idea? Just share it. Not, is this a good time? Just begin. Not, what do you think about? Just state what you think. Then silence. If they disagree, let them do the work of voicing that disagreement. Your silence puts the burden of resistance on them. Most people won't bother. They'll just accept your frame. Here's the price you pay. You'll seem arrogant to people who need everyone to be humble. You'll seem inconsiderate to people who need everyone to seek consensus. You'll lose access to people who only engage with those who supplicate. But you'll gain respect from people who matter. The world sorts itself around you instead of you contorting yourself to fit the world. Contrast example. Weak person in meeting. I was thinking maybe we could potentially consider trying this approach if everyone's comfortable with it. Powerful person, we're doing this. If there's a critical problem I'm not seeing, tell me now. One is negotiating reality, one is declaring it. The silence makes the declaration non-negotiable unless someone has the courage to actively resist. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I declare reality, I don't negotiate it. Point 6. The closing mechanism. See the pattern emerging? Every weak communicator tries to close the gap with more words, more explanation, more persuasion. They think if they just find the right combination of words, people will understand and comply. But Machiavelli knew. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Translation: words are tools, not truth, and the most powerful tool is withholding them. When you want someone to commit to a decision, to a purchase, to a relationship boundary, you don't convince them. You state the reality and then go silent. The psychological explanation. This is called forced decision architecture. When you stop talking after making a request or statement, the other person's brain enters decision mode. They can't stay in the liminal space of maybe. Your silence forces resolution. They either say yes, say no, or start negotiating. But negotiation is engagement, and engagement means you're halfway to yes. People fear making decisions. Your silence makes no decision impossible. The discomfort of your silence exceeds the discomfort of deciding. So they decide. Here's how you use this. Sales, negotiations, boundary setting. State your position clearly, then stop talking. Completely. Maintain eye contact. Breathe normally. Count to 4. Let them sit in the weight of decision. The price is $10,000. I need you home by 10 p.m. I'm not available for that. The first person to speak loses. Not because of some game, but because speaking reveals who needed the outcome more. The cost: you'll lose deals you could have saved with more flexibility. You'll lose relationships you could have maintained with more accommodation, but you'll keep your frame. You'll know every deal you close and every relationship you maintain is on your terms. Most people prefer the illusion of connection over the reality of respect. You're choosing differently. Contrast example. Weak closer, states price, then immediately starts justifying it, offering discounts, explaining value, giving options. Signals: this price is negotiable and I'm desperate for your approval. Powerful closer, states price, silence, waits. If they resist, what's your budget? Silence makes them work for every concession. Each silence resets frame control. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I close through presence, not persuasion. So where are you right now? Be honest with yourself. When's the last time you sat in 4 seconds of silence in an important conversation? When's the last time you made a request and didn't immediately justify it? When's the last time you let discomfort exist without rushing to relieve it? You can't, can you? And that's the gap. The gap between where you think you are and where you actually are. You think you're a strong communicator. You think you're confident. You think you command respect. But you're still a slave to other people's comfort. You're still filling silences to relieve their anxiety. You're still talking yourself out of power. Here's what Machiavelli would tell you. There are 2 types of people in this world. Those who tolerate discomfort to maintain power, and those who sacrifice power to avoid discomfort. Every moment of your life, you're choosing which one you are. The sovereign, that's the identity I'm offering you, doesn't fear silence. The sovereign creates silence and watches others scramble. The sovereign's words carry weight because they're rare. The sovereign doesn't seek understanding. They command it through presence alone. But becoming the sovereign means killing the part of you that needs to be liked. The part that needs to explain yourself. The part that fears judgment. Once you see this, you can't go back. Once you realize that every word you speak seeking approval is a confession of weakness, you can't unhear it. Your current relationships will feel different. Your work dynamics will feel different. You'll see the invisible hierarchy operating in every interaction, and you'll realize you've been choosing to stay at the bottom by being nice and communicative. This transformation isn't comfortable. You'll feel like an asshole at first. You'll wonder if you're being manipulative. You'll question whether this is ethical. Good. That doubt is your old identity dying. Let it. You have 3 choices right now. Choice 1. Close this video and forget everything you just learned. Go back to explaining yourself, justifying your boundaries, filling awkward silences. Stay where you are. That's fine. Most people choose this. They prefer the comfort of weakness to the discomfort of power. Choice 2. Understand this intellectually, but never implement it. You'll know the theory, you'll recognize the pattern in others, but when the moment comes to actually use silence, you'll chicken out. You'll fall back into your programming. You'll have the knowledge but lack the courage. This is worse than choice 1 because now you'll see your own weakness clearly. Choice 3. Transform. Actually practice this. Tomorrow in your first important conversation, count to 4 before responding. Feel the discomfort, sit in it, watch the other person squirm. Watch them fill your silence with compliance. Start small, build the skill. Become someone who controls interactions through strategic withdrawal instead of desperate engagement. But understand, moving up means killing parts of yourself. The likable version, the accommodating version, the version that makes everyone comfortable. Are you willing? Because here's what most people won't tell you. The algorithm suppresses this level of content. This information makes you harder to manipulate, and systems prefer manipulable populations. What you just watched is the public version. It's powerful, but it's incomplete. Behind the join button is where the real psychological warfare education lives. The advanced frame control techniques, the silence variations for specific contexts, the combination patterns that make people question their own reality. Most won't click it. They'll watch free content and wonder why nothing changes. That's the point. Transformation requires skin in the game. It requires commitment. If you're still watching this right now, you're different. You're in the top 1% who make it to the end. You're already demonstrating higher tolerance for discomfort than average. The question is, will you demonstrate the courage to actually change? Hit subscribe if you're choosing transformation over comfort. If you're willing to become the person who controls rooms through silence instead of begging for attention through noise. And drop this final affirmation in the comments, the most important one. I am sovereign. My silence is power. I control reality through presence alone. Say it, mean it, become it. The 4 seconds start now.